Cheney Takeaway Languages video about GCSE, French, German and Spanish. My name is Miss Rain and I teach French GCSE.
My name is Rob Bowen and I teach GCSE Spanish.
My name is Florian Ottilie and I teach French GCSE.
Hi, my name is Ms. Duveau and I teach French GCSE.
My name is Miss Challenger and I teach German GCSE.
And I am Miss Uya and I teach Spanish GCSE.
This is the second year that we've been teaching GCSE languages as we teach them now, and last year the results were absolutely fantastic, over 80% A star to C, so the messages and ideas in this video are tried and tested and they work.
So, we use the AQA exam board to ensure that all students are assessed in the same way. There will be a listening and a reading exam, each counting for 20%, and they will take place in May or June at the end of the year. Throughout the year, students need to do 2 speaking tasks and 2 writing tasks. Each of these is worth 15% of the total exam, and when the students actually do these is on a student overview, which everyone should be given at the beginning of the year.
This overview also lists which homeworks are due and when they are due. Typically a homework might be to memorise some verbs or to write a paragraph. Now these homeworks are crucial because the homeworks feed into the coursework. If you don't do the homeworks, you won't do well in the coursework. We can correct your homeworks, we cannot correct your coursework, so if you get these homeworks done, you'll be fine when it comes to writing the coursework. The other thing to say about the homeworks is that you must meet deadlines. We don't have time to waste. If you look at the overview of the year, you'll see that every week is accounted for. So if you fall behind your deadlines, then we will fall behind in the time that we have to do the coursework, and at the end of the year you won't have enough time left over to prepare for the reading and the listening exams.
So first, why learn verbs? Why is it so important to learn verbs?
Me know verbs very good. Think me yesterday nice. Did you understand anything of what I said? Does it make any sense?
I did not get anything of what you said, I'm sorry.
And to be honest, I didn't get what I said either. And this is probably because my verbs and my language, they didn't have any structure whatsoever.
Exactly. So it's very important that you understand how to use verbs in the language, because otherwise you can't communicate with people. And also if you look at the GCSE in particular, you must know how to use correctly at least 2 tenses if you want to get your minimum C grade. Find them, your verbs, they always come in the same order. It always starts with talking about one person, so je,
Yo,
tu,
tú,
il,
él,
elle,
ella,
and then it goes to talking about more than one person. So imagine all the time you're referring to more than one person. So us, nous,
nosotros,
vous,
vosotros,
vous, all tous ensemble.
is a you plural, kind of thing.
Il
Ellos,
et elle.
ellas.
And so why do we teach them that way? It's because they'll appear always that way in the dictionary or on the internet, everywhere you look, and it's very useful to know what
It's very logical.
And that's why also sometimes we use gesture, as you've seen, we were using our hands to understand how it works and in which order it goes. And we, for example, use verb wraps to help us remembering how the verb works and in which order it goes.
And it's to help you because you also have different skills. Some of you are very good with movement and dancing, so you might be able to remember the verb better with these kind of gestures, and some others are better with musical skills, so if you sing in a rap you might be able to learn it better. So we're always trying to target your learning skill, teaching it in different ways so then you get it.
For example, we try to use a lot of visual learning, and one very important thing when you try to learn your verbs is to show that you actually can explain them to someone else.
Yes, peer teaching, so then you can teach them.
Yeah, exactly. For example, we ask students to make posters that explain how the present tense works.
What can you find examples of how to do these verbs? For example, the order of the persons that Miss and I were doing. And you can find them in Cheney takeaway teachers videos, for example.
I think there's definitely the video of the rap that you can use to, but also there's the grammar booklet.
Yes.
That you are
And
already given at the
you all
beginning.
have that. All of you have some kind of booklet that you have everything printed there.
And
You should have it safe.
of course, the internet. Internet's incredible, especially websites such as Languages Online,
Languages
which we use
Online,
in class.
yes.
Kia is good as well. What other websites do we use in languages?
You can have studyspanish.com or .com. That also has all the conjugations of verbs.
You will often be asked to write paragraph or homework. By a paragraph we mean 6 to 8 sentences, which are about one topic, for example, facilities in my school, or where I normally go on holiday. To write this paragraph on a computer and then email it to your teacher, or send them using Enmodo. This makes it easier for us to correct your work, and it means that we can keep a copy, so if it gets lost, your teacher still has a copy.
When you write, try to write long sentences which give a lot of information and contain lots of connectives. For example, instead of writing, last year I went to Spain, I went with my mum, I went by plane, I went to see my sister, she lives in Mallorca. Write, last year I went to Spain with my mum by plane because I wanted to see my sister, who lives in Mallorca. This way, you avoid repeating I went, and you produce a much more impressive and complex sentence. But don't fall into the list trap. Writing a list might give you a long sentence, but it's not complex. If you really need to make a list, make sure it stops at 3 things. For example, I bought apples, bananas and pears.
I just want you to make sure that when you are writing or when you're preparing your speaking, please make sure that we have to do a list of things, like for example, activities in your holidays. Don't just list them as if you were having, I don't know, shopping list. You talk about one of the activities, for example, and just stay there and you really develop this idea. Now, how can we develop the idea? For example, holiday activity, I went swimming in the swimming pool or in the beach. So I went swimming, that's the action, that's the point. I went swimming, it was fantastic, that's my opinion. Because the water was so warm, that's the reason why you really like it. So you have the point, you have an opinion, and you have a reason. The water was warm because the weather in the Mediterranean is usually very good. That is an explanation of why the water was warm. And then, however, there are very little fish there, and I really like playing with the sharks. So that is an exception.
Another thing that you should always have in front of you when you do your writing is a checklist. That checklist will tell you exactly what you need to include in your writing, and is a little bit like a success criteria. So you must refer to that checklist once you've done your writing and tick every statement, check that you've done everything. If you see there is something missing, then refer to your vocab booklet or your textbook or your own book and find the vocabulary and rewrite your writing, make it better.
Okay, so when you're about to write up your homework, and if you're using a word process, the first thing you need to do is to change the language. So you go into here at the bottom of the screen, change from English to the language that you're going to write, so French, German or Spanish. That will give you access to the spell check, and the important thing as well is to add accent to your work. Now, if you don't know how to use accent, you need to press Control. So, for example, for E acute in French, you will press on Control, then you will press on accent here, which is the key for the at, and then you press the E, the letter that you want you to have the accent on. But if you're not sure about accent, just please go and speak to your teacher, who will show you what to do in order to have your work with accents. And the last thing is, if you need to make sure that if you do any work on word process, make sure you save it, you have a folder and you put all your work there. If you use your exercise book, make sure that it's neat and tidy, so it will be used as a reference point and you can go back backwards and forwards when you are to write your GCSE task.
Make sure that you use a dictionary to check your writing for mistakes, especially you boys, because I know you think that once you're done, it's not true. Use the dictionary to check words that are difficult to spell, and most of all, use the middle section, which has all the verb tables in it, to check your verbs. It's all written there in French or Spanish or German, and sometimes even with the English translations beside the verbs. So use that verb table to check and make sure that you have written what you want to write. What you can see from all of this is that writing is a really complex process, but it's also a learning process. You learn so much by sitting there and struggling and thinking, how do I say that? Can I write it like this? Should I write it like that? And making those decisions. That's you learning. Okay, what you don't learn from is typing in a bunch of sentences in English into Google Translator and pressing the translate button. That one, it just comes up with gobbledygook, and two, you don't learn anything from it, so don't do it. If you have done all your writing, what you need to do is memorize it, and this is really, really hard. So start with lots of support. If you've got to memorize a paragraph, give yourself 20, 30 words in order to be able to say or write that paragraph from memory. And once you can do it, chop it down and make sure that you've got less support, say 20 words and then 10 words and so on. Give yourself enough support so that you can just barely do it.
If you want to practice your listening and reading skill online, just go on to linguascope.com, where you will have lots of activities. Also use the GCSE Bitesite website. And finally, go on to Euronews. It's a good chance to keep up to date with the language that you are studying, but also keep up to date with the culture of the country or just current affairs in general. Although the language might be a bit difficult on Euronews, there's always the script underneath the video, so you could use it as both a listening and reading activity at the same time. Ask the teachers for past papers. Go on to the AQA board to get some past papers. Listening is the most difficult skill, so you do need to practice, and if you've got access to language speakers, just listen to them as much as you can. Go to YouTube, listen to songs, anything you can to tune your ear to a different accent.
Preparing for the reading and listening exams, we will do a lot of that at the end of the year in the run-up to the May and June exams, but you really should be memorising vocabulary right from the beginning of the year in September. Now, your teachers will give you vocab lists, usually with the English beside the French or the German and the Spanish, and you can use those to memorise. You can have your parents help you memorise, even though if they don't speak any French, German or Spanish, it's written right there on the page and they'll be able to tell if you are saying it correctly or not. Perhaps they could test you on 10 words before they give you your pocket money. When it comes to memorising vocabulary, the most important thing to memorise is the vocab list to do with opinions. Every year in the reading and listening exams, loads of the marks are given for recognising when someone feels negatively or positively about something. So make sure you understand all the different ways you can say, I like this or I don't like it. One really good idea is not to try and memorise vocabulary on your own. That's really boring. Go to someone else's house, someone who invites you, go to someone else's house and revise with them. It makes it a lot more fun, and actually you will learn more.
So, what about speaking?
Well, speaking, for the GCSE speaking, we have to ask 6 questions, predicted questions, which you will have some time in class to prepare and write out your answers. And basically, the more you practice, the better you'll get, and the better your grades will be. You can practice at home, you can practice with your friends, you can practice in front of the mirror. You can practice, record yourself on your phone, listen it back to you. You can also practice with your teacher in class. We've got assistant, French and Spanish assistant. You can also use some older students to help you. And don't worry about the pronunciation. The more you practice, the better you will be. Anything else?
Pronunciation. We were talking about pronunciation. I had a ginger guy passing in the corridor last time when we were teaching, and he was talking about Amy Walker. I think you can find videos of Amy Walker on YouTube, and she's doing a different accent, and you can mimic pronunciation to improve your accent. Or the ginger guy was talking about Michel Thomas. Did you hear?
Yeah, Michel Thomas, the CD of Michel Thomas. You can get copies on Amazon, which are not too expensive. And again, it's about practicing and listening and learning. But the main thing is you've got to first learn your answers off by heart and then make sure that you say them loud, because there's no point learning it if you then haven't practiced how to say it loud, because that's what you will be marked on. Okay. I hope that helps you with your French, German and Spanish.
We're just going to finish with a list of essential things that you need to have. So it just remains to say, good luck.
Good luck. Good luck. Bonne chance.
It's not funny.
Nose downwards.
Okay, start again.
Don't do that.
I forgot. Do we do? Sorry.
You're not that tall for
I'll tell you
that.
what, go back in on Station site. That's rubbish.
Have you started recording?
Okay.
I think we talked a lot.
Good night. Cut.
Good night,
Au
bonne nuit.
revoir. Bonne chance.